At the beginning of 2025, I created a portfolio to show beginners exactly the sort of portfolio I would build if I was starting to invest a year ago. So in this video, we're going to look over that portfolio, see how it's done, see if we're going to make any changes, and see if it's still an appropriate fit for the sort of investing I would be doing in 2026. Now, the important thing with this is it's just a guide of the sort of portfolio I would build. It's not necessarily the case that you should copy this blindly in any way, because I don't know your circumstances and it might not be right for you. It is relatively high risk because it is 100% into equities, stocks, right? There's no bonds in there. There's no cash in there. That's the approach that I take. That's the one that works for me, but it might not work for you. So bear that in mind. So let's have a look over it. Let's go over the positions. Here it is right here. As you can see, I've only got a few quid in it. I only built it in order to be able to create something like this to try and help people understand how straightforward this sort of stuff is. Now, the problem with investing these days is it's both a great opportunity to start because there's so many great brokers and platforms in order to do it, but it is also a little bit daunting because there's so many options and choices of things that you potentially could do. So I've broken it down and kept it very simple. So let's get into the portfolio then. We're going to go over the holdings and we're going to go over the percentage allocations into each of these holdings to see why I chose it. So here it is. Here are the holdings, and as you can see at the top, it's 15.05% up. Now, what I did was I deposited into it. Was it December? It was December 24 and January 25, and I haven't deposited into it since. So this is more of a lump sum approach that I took rather than dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging, of course, is putting it in on a monthly basis. Now, typically the guidance is, historically, the market has gone up by 62% of the time. So 38% of the time, it's going to go down, which means if it's going to go down, you're better off averaging in on a monthly basis. If you think it's going to go up, you're better off to obviously lump in because you can take advantage of those increases over the course of that year. I always lump in as much as I can when I can. That's the approach that I've taken. We have had a good few years, and as a result of that, that's worked out for me. But this is just a 1 year view. So 15% up is the portfolio. I didn't take advantage of the dip in April when the Trump tariffs came in. I didn't lump in at that point. I only put in at the beginning of the year. Right, let's get into the holdings. So the first one they've got is the Invesco All World. So this is thousands of businesses across the entire world. The key thing is you have to bear in mind, because the US is so powerful at the moment, 60% of that all world is made up of US businesses. If that were to change in the future and another country came to be the powerhouse, the all world would cover it. So I put 50% into that. It's gone up to 52.62%. The return on that has been 15.1%. As you can see, the markets are open at the moment, so it's changing all of the time. So bearing that in mind alone, whilst the markets are moving, if you look, you can see that the all world is up 15%, but the entire portfolio is up 15.08%. So as we stand right now, that might change by the end of the video, the portfolio I have built has beaten the all world over the course of the last year. So the ticker symbol for that one is FWRG. So that's accumulation. Now, I personally use FTWG, which is the distribution version. That's the dividend paying version. But for this, for a beginner portfolio, I think the best thing is an accumulation version because it doesn't pay out any dividends. That means you don't have to reinvest them. That means it's admin free. The other reason I chose this one is because it's really low cost, 0.15%. Now, the way costs work, of course, is it's not a bill that you get that you have to pay. It gets taken out in the background. But if whatever the value of your portfolio is, 0.15% gets taken off of it to cover the cost of that ETF. So having a look at the FTSE All World then. So the max on that is it's 50% up on the max, but on the year, 13.64%. So obviously I started shortly before that. I've got 52% of my allocation into here. It's cost effective. It doesn't pay a dividend. Further detail below. You don't necessarily need to know it. Now, if you wanted to keep it incredibly simple, I probably, if I wanted to be completely hands-off, would just buy that. I wouldn't buy any of the other positions in this portfolio. I'd keep it really simple and just do that. By the way, I will put a link to this pie below so you can click it and have a look at it as well. The second position I got is the S&P 500. Again, an accumulation version, for the reasons I stated before. Now, you might think that there's duplication in place here, because if the whole world is made up of 62% of the US and you've got the US as well, there's duplication there. Now, my approach is that I do think that the US will continue to grow despite what's going on over there, right? This is a long-term portfolio. We're talking 10 years plus. And in that time horizon, my belief is, it might not be yours, that the US will continue to grow. So I think that that growth should be included within this portfolio. So I want to capture it. And that's what I've done. I'll put a 35% allocation into that. So that now means that we've got 85% into two very large global ETFs. Now, that really is probably, if I was to redo it, I might even put it to 90% across those two. But I wanted to include a little bit of of precious metals in there as well. So we'll come on to that in a minute. That then is 11.88% up. That has underperformed versus the old world. That's largely due to currency. The S&P 500 is actually up more than that. And those two make up the majority of the pie. So the third one then is to get exposure to an ETC, exchange traded commodity, and that is gold. And by Christ, was that a good choice? I only put 5% into that. The one I chose was SGLN because that is a cost-effective version. So what you're doing is you're buying exposure to gold. You don't have to hold on to it. You don't have to put it into a vault. You don't have to pay for storage, but you're getting that exposure to gold. And this ETC tracks the index of the gold price really very closely. So if the gold goes up by 45%, your ETC goes up by 45%. As we can see here, it's not the best performing position in the portfolio, but it has bloody flown. 45% gain inside 1 year. Now that's not normal, right? We won't see 45% gains in gold every year. I guarantee you that. That's the one thing I will guarantee you, but it has been a great year for gold because people have been moving to safe havens, which is what it typically is. That's not necessarily the case. That's what people call it. They do that when, you know, there is uncertainty in the world and they want to move to something that they think is a little bit more stable. Now, of course, gold doesn't give you anything. It doesn't create a dividend. It's not an asset that creates money. It just is. So I wanted to put a bit of exposure into here. I keep a little bit myself in my own personal portfolio. Now, what I did then is I chose I did choose 4. Come on to that in a minute. I chose 4 individual businesses just because I like to have a couple of individual businesses, only 2%, less than 2% into each one of these, just to get that exposure. The first one was Lloyd's, which has absolutely flown, right? That is up 62%. UK banks in general and financial institutions have done really well. So that's another one that's not going to continue to go up by 62% every year. Now, as we're seeing interest rates coming down, as interest rates are coming down, which they have been, that will affect the growth of the likes of UK banks. But now what we've got is a UK financial institution covered within the portfolio. Next, we've got a big US tech behemoth in Microsoft. I keep Microsoft in my main portfolio. I also keep Lloyd's. And that is to get exposure to a business that I think, personally, will outperform the S&P 500 in the long term, right? It has done historically. There's no guarantee it's going to do it going forward. And as we can see here, 8% up. It hasn't. It hasn't over the course of the last year. The S&P 500 has done better than Microsoft, but it's one that I want to keep within my portfolio. Now, we've got US tech. We've got UK finance. I also wanted a bit of property, and the one that I use in my portfolio is Realty Income. The reason I choose that is because it's a monthly dividend paying REIT, real estate investment trust. So that basically means it's a business that buys property and makes all of its income from the rent that it gets from that property. And in order to qualify as a REIT, it needs to pay 90% out of the profit that it makes, the revenue that it makes, as a dividend to people that hold the position. So it's a small dividend. It's a relatively sizable dividend, actually. It's 5 point something, can't quite remember, I'll double check, 5%, and that pays on a monthly basis. It has underperformed. It's underperformed for a long time, but this is around exposure to different sort of classes, you know, as well as equity. You've got property, you've got an ETC in here. I do think it will continue to underperform, but I want that diversification in the portfolio. And that's when I wanted some consumer goods, and that comes in Unilever. So Unilever is a global consumer good business. It is FTSE 100 listed. That means you don't have to pay any withholding tax if you do with US businesses, like you do with Realty Income, like you do with Microsoft. It's a quarterly paying dividend, which is always nice to have. It's a low margin relatively. Let's have a look at it. So the margin dividend yield for Unilever is 3.73%, but we're not always chasing the biggest dividends because that can fall into a dividend trap. Now, what you'll see is the fifth business, Magnum Ice Cream. That's because there was a split within the business over the last couple of months. That was a part of Unilever. It got split out into its own entity. And if you held Unilever, you'll have seen that happen. Now, it's up to you whether you want to continue to hold that, but you need £1 minimum in that in order to sell it. So I can't sell it, but I would have sold it. So Unilever underperformed, Realty Income underperformed, everything else is up, and it's up quite a bit. As a result, let's have a look where we're at now. So the old world is up 15.02%, and this portfolio is up 15.09%. So we have beaten the market ever so slightly in the last year. To finish, I want you to remember, you don't necessarily shouldn't go and blindly copy this. It might not be right for your circumstances. I am not going to make any changes to it. I don't really like to think too much. I'm going to leave it as it is. But hopefully it just gives you a steer of the sort of stuff that I'd be buying if I was starting now. It is the sort of stuff I'd be buying if I was starting now. Most of these, nearly all of these, I hold within my main portfolio. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of a steer in terms of how easy this sort of stuff is. If you've got any questions, please drop them below.